Welcome to Brave Ideas, the podcast no one asked for. Also, it's where we talk to change makers and extraordinary humans and they share the courage behind their boldest moves. In each episode, we tackle where they've come from, the brave idea, and what is next. I'm your host, Clint McIntyre, CEO of Honest Fox, a digital product agency right here in Melbourne.
And I'm Alex Wood, Head of Product Strategy at Honest Fox, and Clint's paying me to be here, so we might as well have some fun.
A quick shout out to our sponsor, Tequila Tromba. For a true craft tequila experience, drink Tromba. Available in all the good bottle shops and also the dodgy ones. This week, we're talking with Marcus Crook and Nick Pearce, founders of Homie, the Melbourne-based streetwear label with a mission, supporting young people affected by homelessness. They've taken the purpose even further with Reborn, upcycling clothing from brands like Champion and Country Road to keep garments out of landfill. From humble beginnings to partnering with major retailers, they've built a social enterprise that's changing lives.
We didn't just talk about fashion either. We talked about the misconceptions around homelessness, the challenges of running a purpose-driven brand, and how they're starting to reshape the fashion industry through impact-led innovation. It's a pretty powerful story of resilience, creativity, and social change. So feel good, sit back, relax and enjoy our conversation with Marcus Crook and Nick Pearce from Homie.
Welcome, fellas.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, boys.
Pleasure is all ours. I'm going to read out some stats because these are very impressive, fellas. You've helped 3,500 young people through this program at Homie. You've donated or gifted 13,000 items through VIP days. That's for people who are experiencing homelessness. Yep. Over 6,000 hours of paid education for young people through the Homie Pathway Alliance. And actually 90% of those people who have gone through this program, currently employed or... Is that right?
Yes, maintain employment, absolutely, yeah.
And over 17,000 hours of employment. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear it regurgitated back to you.
Pretty impressive, isn't it?
What do you do on the weekend?
Yeah.
It's amazing, boys. It's really good stuff.
So, before we go any further, tell us current roles within the organisation.
Yeah, so I'm the creative director. So I head up, a lot of the brand stuff right from design right through to production and content. So manage all of that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I'm unemployed. I finished up where I was the CEO sort of just under a decade up until sort of this time last year, and taking a step back to support my wife with her own business and our young growing family. So I've taken the lead on that, which has been really nice. But been very fortunate to have a wonderful new CEO come in and who's just been incredible, and I guess still been able to maintain some contact behind the scenes and sort of light touch stuff. So it's been nice to maintain that connection, but it's kind of also cool to be able to step away and just see it sort of flourish, and sort of just all the activity that's doing now is beyond what I could have imagined. So it's really nice to be in this space now.
It's been a long journey. We've got a story about how we actually met.
Yes.
I think 14 years ago. No, when did you guys
would
start?
have been, so it would have been 10. So I reckon it was about almost a decade ago. Yeah. So I mean, do you want to?
I'll try. I had a failed t-shirt label. I was trying out of my garage in 2014. Around then, I think it was.
Yeah, that's it.
And it wasn't making any money, let's be honest. And so
That's
I decided...
typically what constitutes a failure in retail.
Yeah, it was very poor. It's called Nelson Clothing, and I was done. So I said, let's give everything away. I didn't want to sell it. I said, but I wanted to give it somewhere it was going to do some good. And then I think you guys had started out with something in Fed Square from memory.
Yes, that's right, pop-up store, yeah.
I must have seen that on Facebook or something, and I went, oh, this is great. So I called him up. I think you came around to my apartment in Elwood.
Beaten up Volkswagen Golf. And, loaded the boxes into the back. I think I took you somewhere. I drove you and dropped you off at a pub somewhere, I think, or I was going somewhere. I
was going to skim over that part.
Just to drown your sorrows.
Yeah. And then, you took it. And I think because back then it wasn't Homey as it is today. It was, you were selling other products, like, whether it was Elwood clothing, stuff like mine.
Yes.
And then you started Homey off the back of that, I believe. Yeah,
it was sort of like I guess initially a bit of a smorgasbord in terms of our sort of pilot, store. Like obviously it was called Homey, and we did have some very small runs of what was like a logo from a Facebook page we started. I guess we'll get into that as well. But we did have a real sort of mismatch of different clothing brands. Like there was like Cotton On, I think, at that point in time.
Yeah, Stussy,
Nelson, like all these different, and candles and all this different stuff just to try and...
A lot of it was like seconds and samples that, brands donated to us. Similar to you, they wanted to just pass on stuff to people that were doing it a bit tough. So, yeah, there was no cohesion amongst all of it. It was a bit of a mishmash of heaps of different brands and gear.
Yeah, that's 2014. How old were you then?
A bit older than me.
Yeah. I would have been 26.
How do you get into that kind of, like at 26, you know, most people sort of finishing uni, thinking about their next career and that, and you're going, no, I want to help other people. Like, how did you get there?
Well, I was still at uni, I think, or I was graduating when we sort of, kicked it off. So it would have been 26, and I would have been maybe 20 or 21, I can't remember. But we actually met overseas. So we did a fundraising bicycle ride for anti-child trafficking. So didn't know each other prior to that. And the idea was to raise funds and awareness for one school in like a really remote region of Cambodia. And so we connected on that trip. So it was really fun. So we were like riding push bikes through, you know, beautiful countries, sweltering heat, riding off the, you know, sweating out the beers from the day before. But became great mates on that trip. And then I guess what we loved about that particular endeavour was that it was this one school in a really remote region. So it felt really tangible for us. Like the impact was really clear. And one of the insights from that trip was, you know, we had these ideas around what we could do with the money that we raised. I think we, as a collective, there was not just us two, there was probably about 20 or so people, raised about 40,000 Australian dollars. And we had, you know, ideas around what we could do for the school and, you know, our own sort of preconceived notions. But it was really interesting when we actually asked sort of the school and, you know, the staff, like, what do you guys need? You know, we could do X, Y, Z. And you'd sort of think, oh, was it like, you know, new uniforms or textbooks or whatever. And they were saying, look, the biggest challenge we have right now is that our teachers actually being poached from these rural areas into the cities because there's greater remuneration, you know, quality of life for them, etc. So we actually, if we don't have any, you know, teachers, there's no school, then our children are vulnerable to exploitation because they're out God knows where doing God knows what, you know. So it was really interesting to sort of get that insight, and I guess it was an aha moment for us around, cool, like maybe actually the best thing we can do is support the teachers. So I think that felt really great for us. It was like, you know, the idea of where are we best placed to make the best impact, and that then translated to coming back from that trip. I was still studying, doing a communications degree at RMIT. Marcus was doing a myriad of different things. I'll let you talk about what you were doing.
Oh, yeah. I had retail gigs at General Pants.
One of those annoying customer service guys
Autonomy,
at General Pants.
Autonomy as well. DJing on the weekends, playing footy.
Yep.
So
sounds amazing.
But
photography shop.
Yeah, photography was sort of also, I guess, like a bit of a passion.
Yeah,
and sort of. So Marcus on that bike ride was sort of doing the videography and photography. So we sort of thought, and Marcus came to me after that trip, like that was really awesome. Like let's try and do something back home. And we just decided to get together in our breaks when it was on a lunch break, and I was in a uni break, and we just went and spoke to people who were living rough in the CBD predominantly, and started on Swanson Street, and just started having conversations. And I think that really, I guess, opened our eyes to a reality of, you know, how prevalent homelessness was. Obviously, we were seeing people living rough and interacting with them, but again, sort of those engagements really changed our own sort of, you know, perceptions of what we thought these people would be like and what the challenges were, etc. So that kind of, I think, lit a fire within us to try and want to do something further, because what we were finding was that the media portrayal was just so far contrasted to the reality of the situation, and the people that we were interacting with just didn't marry up to, you know, these stigmas and stereotypes. So I guess we got quite passionate about wanting to sort of advocate for that. And that's sort of where I guess the nucleus of Homie was that we started a Facebook page called Homelessness of Melbourne. And that was sharing the stories of these people, I guess, in their own words, to try and, challenge those preconceived notions and raise awareness of homelessness. That garnered a really large organic following back in the day. I think stories of these people were reaching almost 500,000 people worldwide, which is really cool. But the feedback was coming through like, you know, what can we do? And people who are sort of, you know, following that community, how else can we help? And I walked past, you know, Joe today because I read his story and realised we had a common interest in this, and it was really cool to have that chat because I've been walking past him for a year on my way to work, but never felt comfortable, and you guys enabled me to sort of, you know, have an intro and all the rest of that. So we saw, I guess this event that had started in South Africa called The Street Store. It was an initiative which was a pop-up sort of thrift shop. It was a global movement, and we did Australia's first ever one in Fed Square in December 2014, which is probably where Clint saw us. Yep. And I guess the rest is history. Yeah, so sorry, it's pretty long-winded.
No, it's good.
Give you the sort of full, you know,
I wanted
journey.
One little point in that I found really interesting. So a lot of people talk about wanting to do good and what are we going to do, and a great entrepreneurial spirit to go. We want to turn passion and obviously a lot of energy that you both have into, you know, an activity that you can turn into a business. But you decided to go and talk to people on the street because you didn't feel like what was being reflected in the media was accurate. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We became passionate about it after hearing these stories of people, experiencing this hardship and by no fault of their own. And then sort of, reading what's going on in the media and on TV and how these people are treated, in times of their life where they're most vulnerable. It just, really angered us, and we just wanted to do something about it. And that's why we became really passionate about it. It sort of has snowballed since then. We'll be able to have that pop-up store and people came through, and there was a community of people that came down with truckloads of clothing, but then there was also a community of people that came in needing the support. And from that, we were like, wow, there's two groups here that we can, marry together to help, create this impact. And that's sort of where it sort of stems from.
I just think that the courage that we would have taken to do that, to be sitting there and going, then that's what this is about. And that first moment being so critical to the next things that stem from that was probably the right stand to make.
Yeah, I don't think we knew any better. I think it was just like a series of inflection. There was definitely ignorance, but there was passion, and I think logic came along the way. But I guess we're always led by the community that we were seeking to serve, and I guess we were under no illusions that clothing wasn't going to solve this issue of homelessness, right? A t-shirt is not going to, solve what is sort of intergenerational challenges. But we felt that there was an opportunity for us to use that as a vehicle to raise awareness, and then obviously create other programs which we felt could actually be a key part of the solution to homelessness, which is sort of part of the evolution. So I think we just followed the scent of our nose. We were very passionate, as you say, at that time, and still are, of course, but it was the logic that came on as we sort of progressed, and we were learning more and we were interacting with that community, and where we could sort of create the best and most value became that sort of question we were always asking, and that's what I guess became the permanent store, and then also the subsequent programs that followed.
I love it. It's almost like building. We build products at Honest Fox, and you always go for that MVP, and then you build more. You've never lost the fact of the user in the middle, the people who you have to serve.
Yes.
And you built things around that, but that's been the constant all the way through. I think that's really interesting.
It has been. I think one sort of reflection that came about early days, which was really pertinent for us, was one of our board members who sort of worked in psychiatry and sort of the incarceration system for decades. She sort of said, look, you can't do everything for everyone, but you can do something for someone. And that was a really lovely message, I think, for us to be able to
keep it small.
hone in, refine our focus on who we were best placed to serve in this sort of spectrum of this issue. And we found, obviously, youth homelessness to be that area where we felt we could probably, create the greatest impact with what we had. So it was kind of a nice sort of North Star to have, as you say, that sort of steered us during those moments of uncertainty.
I mean, let's talk about the problem, youth homelessness. I mean, and your stats will be, your knowledge about this will be far greater than ours, but 40,000 people every year, or the last yearly report, 12 to 24, kids homeless right now. Yeah, talk to us about how that actually inspires you guys to do what you do each day, and how's that evolved over your journey? Have you seen those numbers increase exponentially? Are there rises and falls? How is Australia actually doing on a global scale when it comes to homelessness?
Yeah, it's a good question. Maybe I'll give some more of the objective kind of some of the hard-hitting stats, and Marcus can talk more about the coalface, etc., and the reality, because I guess probably one of the most interesting insights. So, that information is correct, but it's also from a census which is always outdated. It's always, however many years, every 4 years that so whether we're 2 years ahead or behind or whatever. So, I guess what's really interesting to us is that, yes, on any given night in Australia, there's over 120,000 plus people experiencing homelessness, according to the most recent census, which again is outdated. But that's the best source of, material that we have available to give us that information. And as you say, there's a material amount of people, over 40,000 between that cohort. One that probably was most interesting to us early days was that I think is it less than 10% of people who are experiencing homelessness out of that 120,000 plus are there as a direct result of substance and alcohol abuse, which we felt was always probably if you ask the common punter, why do you think someone's experiencing homelessness, people say, oh, it's just drugs and alcohol.
Off the rails kind of stuff.
And to get that insight that, wow,
avoidable almost.
How almost immaterial it is, and also that insight that, more often than not, and almost every time, it's, a means of self-medication, or there's other sort of underlying issues that are transpiring, and that's why someone might be, engaging that kind of behaviour. So it was one of those things, I think, that for us was like, wow, it's such a shame that that's the perception. But then also people who are living rough. So I think of that 120,000 plus people, most people would assume that, yes, someone's there because of substance and alcohol abuse, but also they're living on the streets. The reality is that, again, it's no more than 9,000 people, I think, out of that 120,000 plus who are living rough on the streets. So most homelessness is actually not happening on the streets. It's invisible. Couch surfing, sleeping in cars, youth refuges, etc. Like, it's one of those things that the invisible issue is bigger than what we see, and it's the tip of the iceberg. So these kind of stats, I guess, really helped us to, again, sort of find our lane, and where we decided to focus was youth homelessness, because we felt how overrepresented it was, and the reality being that we felt potentially if we could hopefully work with this cohort and this group and inspire others to do the same, that we could try and break that cycle. Because we couldn't do everything for everyone, but we felt that this was the area where, I guess, again, like our clothing is sort of streetwear, it's contemporary, it's sort of, youth focused, but also our programs are very much fixated on trying to work upstream to prevent something from becoming chronic, and that early detection and intervention model being a prevention-based kind of approach. So that's why we decided to focus, intently on youth homelessness. But sorry, I thought the context might be helpful in terms of framing it, and then Marcus can talk to youth homelessness.
That's great context, man.
And that 122,000 number, to be involved in the census, you have to be in a house or you have to access a service to be a part of that. And we know that over 250,000 people access homelessness services last year alone. So that number is probably double, if not more. For us, family violence, family breakdown, and lack of affordable housing is the main cause of homelessness. And, we see that through the young people we support. So there's that common misconception, as Nick speaks about, that, it's drugs or alcohol, but it's, there's an Age article came out yesterday of up to 3 million people in Australia could be at risk of homelessness, in the next coming year. So, it can affect us all. It doesn't take much for people to end up in this position, and we're just trying to create these programs to give young people that kickstart so they can go on and thrive and create their own journeys in the workforce. So,
is that 3 million down to cost of living essentially at the moment? Yeah.
And there's 0 houses that are affordable on youth allowance. Zero rentals.
Are the government doing enough here?
Good question.
Come on.
Full disclosure, we don't work for the government.
I think if the government was doing enough, we wouldn't exist, right? And I think probably, probably the most recent example of sort of government sort of intervention, if you will, was during the COVID times, and obviously repurposing all these sort of boutique hotels, etc., to become accommodation. But there was a lot of noise about that at that point in time. But obviously, there hasn't been any follow up about where are these people now, where are they residing, are they, are they back living rough on the streets, are they X, Y, Z? So it's, I guess, one of those things where, we probably would cease to exist if government was doing enough. But look, the thing is, homelessness is so complicated, and the reality being is that the solution is not it's not a band-aid. It's also not a one, rule applies for all. It's very complex, and I think the reality is you need to work with, one person at a time, case-by-case basis, to do it right and to do it properly, and that's sort of the approach that we try to adopt. And we don't do everything, but we collaborate with other partners to make sure we've got a pretty comprehensive solution. So, the challenge being is that it's just very disjointed, and the system is broken, but the reality being is if it was yourself, you'd want that comprehensive sort of all your own goals, dreams, wants, needs tended to. It just doesn't happen like that. People often are given sort of a temporary solution without a genuine pathway into independence. So unfortunately, they're more vulnerable when they sort of that tenure concludes in that situation when they have got that temporary housing. So it's a challenge because it's just very fragmented, disjointed, and there's no desire to sort of collaborate as a collective at this point in time.
I think your model's great. It's not like, here's a handout, go look after yourself. It's like, let's train you to get employment, long-term solution.
It takes time, and
Yeah.
it is resource, cost, all those things intensive. But again, there's no other way. Like, there's no shortcuts to this. It's someone's livelihood. So I think we certainly didn't take that lightly. And the reality being is, like, this is someone's livelihood and future at stake. We can't F it up. So let's give them what we want of ourselves. So that's what we've endeavoured to do. It's not perfect by any means, but we think it's a step in the right direction.
And that's why we have the 90% success rate, or young people in further work or education after the program. But it's also the aspirational workplaces. Like, young people want to work at Champion, they want to work at Nike, want to work at Sports Girl, and work at the Homie store. So it's about providing opportunities where people actually want to go to work and enjoy themselves. So
because they've been good partners, haven't they? Champion, Sports Girl.
Great.
And I think the thing is, like, what we're trying to do, right, because again, we can't do it all, but really be an example and influence to others around, you can do this too, and really removing some of those sort of perceived kind of barriers that there may be. And often, again, it is also, largely internal. It's these assumptions. And once we actually are able to create that infrastructure and show these partners, really, we want you to sort of stick to your lane. We have, I guess, this wonderful solution in the sense that we collaborate with, local sort of homelessness services that provide that wraparound support and housing and care, etc. We work alongside ourselves, obviously, in our internal team with specialists of support workers, youth workers, etc. And then also our retail partners. So it's just very collaborative, and probably what the system is missing. But everyone's playing to their strengths, so no one's being asked to do more than what you think is a minimum requirement. And then the funny, sort of reflections, not funny, but just, I guess, unsurprising to us now, go, oh, wow, like, actually was, really seamless and amazing and quite a positive experience. And we thought there might be, in the past, challenges of X, Y, Z, and they're just so mitigated because of, the framework that's being created.
And there's also a lot of data around creating more inclusive and positive environments in those workplaces that we, who are our partners, like more motivation to go to work because they're, part of this program. And so it's about trying to get more retailers on board and showcase that it's not only going to benefit the young people in our community, but it's going to benefit their workplace as well.
And I guess the last point there is, like, the vehicle of retail, and why we're focusing so intently on that is because it's the biggest employer of young people in our country, and youth homelessness is the most representative group of people experiencing homelessness, in terms of percentage. So it makes perfect sense to use this as a vehicle, and obviously for some people it's it's a springboard and a platform, but for some people it's actually a really fruitful career as well. So we think there's so many sort of intangibles that come through that experience of interpersonal skill development, soft skills, confidence. Like, they're the things that we try and instill, and they translate in any workplace. So that's why we're focusing really, intently on this particular sector.
You've really cracked a formula that I think governments really struggle with for a long time, and being able to stick with it and invest your time, and then find that it just grows and grows through retail partners, through other activities, is terrific. Like, it's very enviable. Talk to us a little bit about the things that you've innovated with over time. Like, it started as a program, it's gone into several different iterations now. How important has it been for you both to think about what's next and to evolve? And has it come naturally, or has it been hard?
Well, Marcus is the ideas guy.
He's the creative.
But I think, we've always tried to provide innovative solutions to long-standing issues, right? These issues sort of exist and permeate because there isn't that notion of innovation being applied. So that's always, again, been sort of a focal point for us. As you say, the deep listening and kind of being reactive to the needs, wants, etc. of our cohort has always sort of been the grounding principle. But in terms of a business, I guess, Marcus could certainly talk about some of the iterations that we've gone on.
Yeah, well, I think the business has been guided by the young people. We have a data monitoring and evaluations officer that works within our team to capture all of that from young people going through the program and 12 months afterwards. And we're always refining and perfecting the way we go about that program so we can, help inform the way we have the next young people go through. So that we've been led by, those young people along the way, but it's also for us about, trying to find ways where people are going to interact with business, but turn it into a social good or turn it into something with purpose. So whether that's, buying clothing, or whether that's, needing content, or whether that's buying a coffee, like, how can we change these, structures and turn them into something that's going to benefit the community? And that's sort of the thinking of what we've sort of had along the process is like, how can we turn this next thing into something that's going to benefit someone else?
Are there official brainstorm meetings that Nick and Marcus get into? Is it like, I mean, with our business, there's a lot of scenario planning that we do officially with a process, and or is it like, hey, how interesting is this? What if we could get someone to do that?
Well, Marcus would often come to me and I'd give it a too hard basket. Let's go down this line.
Mate, dreaming.
It's a really good question. Yeah, I think it's been very organic.
Yeah.
And I think just everything that we've done, we've endeavoured for it to be like a natural extension of our offering.
Yeah.
So not trying to bite off more than we can chew and do something like that's so far out of our wheelhouse that just doesn't make sense to, I guess, the skills within our team and ourselves, and then also sort of our growth trajectory. So there's been some really great new developments, especially in regards to, I guess, our clothing offering, and how that works to try and make sure that we're always at the forefront and ahead of the game, and being an example to others. So I think that's probably where we feel like we really punch above our weight. We've got the one store which is 75 square metres currently, in corner of Brunswick and Johnson Street, and obviously the e-com channel as well. But I think we're really trying to be that example to others and show them what's possible, and actually infiltrate their workplaces in a positive sense, and teach them empathetic employment and all these other notions. Is always been sort of a goal of ours. It's not about having hundreds of thousands of stores, but as Marcus said, like having homey creative and providing that sort of solution to businesses that want that content that we can generate that feeds back into helping us sustain our operation, and obviously subsequently our impact programs, the Reborn component, obviously, and conscious of the fact that we're in the industry of production, but minimising our footprint as much as possible. So we've always tried to make sure that although we entered into this notion of consumerism and obviously conscious consumerism, trying to always be at the forefront. I think if we had our time again, we didn't know any better, right? But we got into the challenge of not only trying to tackle this really complex issue and provide a logical solution, but then also having to produce clothing that's going to appeal to ever-changing market and environment.
If it was just one product, it would have been way easier.
Oh, mate, the SKUs.
We didn't know any better, but there's
So is that why Nelson failed?
Oh, man, it was a nightmare.
Sorry, mate.
I skimmed a couple of t-shirts and gave it to us, so minus a couple from the till. I liked them.
Yeah, but I think
you're the only one.
that organic process, we were creating all of our own content, and then we realised that we were pretty good at that, and then we were like, well, maybe we can do content for other people. Started doing that, Champion, Headspace, Zero, all these big brands, Disney, and then the same with the programs. We know that works, and we know that framework works, and now we offer fee for service to that empathetic employer training. So it's about doing what we do well, and then sort of offering that to the market as well.
Natural extensions, and again, everyone's saying for someone, it was that principle applied to our program, but then also our business operations. So
talk to us. I'm going to go a little bit you're doing amazing work, more than 10 years in this space doing this stuff as a platform for youth and widening the eyes of retailers and inclusiveness around businesses is bloody phenomenal. It's amazing.
Thank you.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenges you're going to face and some of the stuff that we've been looking at. 6 of 7 quarters have been down in retail. Technically we're in a recession when it comes to retail in the country. Do you sort of see things like that and go, shit, I got to get up every day and go and make it work? Do you find that people are like, if I'm going to spend, I'm going to spend where it counts, and there's less conspicuous consumption? Or is it, we really struggle to sell, it becomes even harder in this environment? Talk to us about those gripes that you're dealing with.
Well, we're not immune. I think that's the thing, is I guess hopefully we've got an additional unique selling point in terms of the impact that's generated through obviously engaging with us as a business, but certainly, in some ways you have to play the game at times. I know Marcus just did a reflection around Black Friday, right? That's always a challenging one, but maybe you could,
and that's why we have diversified as well, our offering. So, not only the content, but we also do uniforms and stuff for other businesses as well. Yeah, cool. And diversifying our business in that regard sort of helps if, retail's down or people aren't buying clothing. We've still got these other options to help support the business. But we've been really fortunate in, the past year. We're up 20% on year when
Congratulations.
a lot of other businesses are, down 20 to 30%. And I think that comes back to people, buying things that align with their values.
Yep.
And, we're, providing that option, and that's why it's so important for us to showcase our impact and really champion that, because people are really wanting to support things that really benefit the community, and that's what we offer.
They wear it with pride.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that. When people buy from your shop, they just love it.
Yeah.
And they're great advocates. Like that's
Yeah.
the beauty, is like it's an awareness generating mechanism as well.
Yeah.
And often if you can actually get to the point of them saying that's a cool T-shirt, and you're like, yeah, it's cool because it looks great, but then also it does X, Y, Z.
Oh, I'm sure the strike rate of someone saying that is so high.
Once we get into the store, it's again, it's you sort of can reel them in pretty well, which is great. But we're certainly not immune, and we've had really lean periods, and those sort of, if this doesn't go this way, then tomorrow it might be this. It is a challenge, right? But I think as Marcus said, like, we're trying to make sure that we almost have some insurance policies, for lack of a better term, around diversifying our base with things that are logical extensions of what we know and we think we can do well, whilst also trying to be ahead of the game. And obviously, the Reborn initiative, and at times, again, having to sort of mix it with sort of the big players and provide comparable offerings, almost reluctantly. But again, sort of in this, as you say, climate, you have to try and sort of see what sticks.
It's a great answer for diversification. I have a question for you, Marcus, just around being the creative head, creative lead. You've said the brains are all in there.
Well, I did the brain ideas.
The crazy and the good ones and the crazy ones.
A lot of brains as well.
And supporting young people affected by homeless hardship. Yeah, that's the core mission. But there is a designer mission in here, which is making caring cool. And I've heard you guys talk about this. And Marcus, talk to us a little bit about your process around doing that. Does it come really naturally, or is it something that you look for all the time?
Yeah, I mean, it's constant. Like when you start your own thing, you never stop thinking about it. And I've always been into fashion and art and music, and I've always followed trends and all that sort of stuff, and had worked in retail prior to starting Homie. So I was always really interested, and I think that sort of helped as we've moved forward. Create collections that resonate with people, but a big part of the graphics and the design is to create conversations. So they might have subtle messaging. We don't have end homelessness across the front, but there might be like finding space for people out of place, and it's like have a space graphic, or stuff like that, which is a subtle conversation starter, and can have people wear it with pride and tell their mates about it, because it does have that subtle message that they can share and be proud of. So I think we also work with amazing artists and graphic designers as well, support that sort of community. And it's been a real community of people that have driven this brand. It's definitely not just me. There's a whole group of people that are really behind it, and whether that's graphics or photography or stuff like that. So it's been a hell of a journey, but it's really important for us to keep up with these trends and all that, because if it's without the profit, there's no purpose. So it's really important for us to stay on top of it. We've featured at Melbourne Fashion Festival and Fashion Weeks for a number of years now, and it's really important part of the business to have a cool brand. Really,
remain relevant.
Yeah,
absolutely. Are you getting people come to you now? I imagine that you kind of flipped the script a little bit. 8 years ago, you would have been knocking on doors. Are you getting your door knocked on now by things like AFL? I saw you doing a collaboration with AFL, or is that right? In talks.
Okay. Hasn't
get on
allegedly.
Yeah.
We haven't over the line.
Who's running the AFL now?
Dozens of listeners. We'll get this over the line, okay?
We had a meeting yesterday, and things are ticking along. Nothing is set in stone as yet, but we are starting to get people come to us. We're all about long-term, meaningful partnerships and engagement. We can see straight through it if people want to just partner on a t-shirt and help grow their brand. So it's all about engaging with us, not just the clothing side of it, but is there a chance to be a part of the programs? That's why Champion's been such a good partner for us. So, they were involved in our programs for 2 years before we even partnered on a clothing collection. So,
general business support and mentoring,
Yeah.
access to resources and the facilities. Like it's always extended beyond, as Marcus said, the surface level. Just putting two logos together on a t-shirt is looking for those partners that we can obviously create sort of a legacy together with. And it's like that. What's that cricket terminology? Putting a high price in your wicket. I think that's been really important to us at home. First test is on Friday, isn't it? But I think as we've grown, we've appreciated more, in terms of the value of what we've created. Yeah. And things are a value exchange, right? So just making sure we don't underestimate what we've created, because yes, again, we are, in some ways, a very well-known brand in sort of the inner north and sort of Melbourne and Victoria largely, but there's also a huge world that doesn't know we exist. So we're always really cognizant of making sure that whoever we're with can help amplify, but also this is genuine.
And I love that you've got to put value on what you've created. Yeah. Because in the day, I'm assuming that you could have gone to other paths in your career and probably made more money, but you're going, I'm helping people, so you got to value what you're doing and building. So I love that.
Thank you.
A question around, you mentioned at the start, Nick, you had a vision, maybe a shared vision when you first began. We're 10 years down the track. How's it changed?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think
has it changed?
In some ways, no, but then I think there has been some changes. Again, early days it was just about trying to raise the profile and the awareness of homelessness, obviously more broadly, because we felt that we wanted to try and almost re-educate, and that's still a big part of the the organisation. But then I think the direct intervention has been really key and crucial for us. Is we need to roll up our sleeves and actually show people how this can be done, and that it can be done, and that it is achievable, and that you can have really great outcomes with this kind of approach. So I think in a lot of ways we've really narrowed and refined our focus and tried to distill exactly who we are and who we do it for, and also unfortunately who we don't do it for, because that's always really challenging, right? Is you want to try and do more, and there's it's a bigger issue than what we can currently service and what the sector can at large at this point in time. But I think our philosophy has been, as you say, let's try and do it really bloody well and be an example to others and show them that they can do this too, and it's not as hard as they may think it is. So I think that's probably been some of the sort of adjustments that we've made along the way, and sort of the piece that we've had to make within ourselves to go, we're going to go really hard on this particular component of it, because we think that for us it makes the most sense. It was always around working upstream, prevention based, was certainly sort of something that I think resonated with us, and almost reflecting back to that trip overseas, and that's insight from the the community of that school saying the best thing you can do is this. So it's always been a question of where are we best placed to make the best possible impact, and I think we've found that. So that's probably my reflections, but Marcus might have a wildly different take.
No, I think you sort of nailed it there. I guess for me it's sort of gone a little bit from this awareness, advocacy, heavily involved in that, and to all of a sudden now I'm trying to make this brand as big as possible to create that impact. So I've sort of had to shift a little bit. I'm obviously still involved with the young people that go through the program, but my job now is to make this brand as big as possible so we can support as many young people as we can. So it's definitely sort of shifted a little bit for me in that sense, but we've stuck true to the values and the mission throughout the whole process, for sure.
What's the biggest challenge in growing it at the moment?
Oh, you took that question out. Right? That's so good. We're on the same wavelength. I love that.
I mean, just...
Is it economic at the moment? Is it down to that? People are not spending as much? Is it like that? Or
Yeah, I think a little bit of that. We're just trying to get the word out there as much as we can. We started with a physical store, and we've sort of had to reverse engineer to have an online store, and so there's huge opportunity for us in the online space, and obviously that comes with less overheads, and you can reach more people and all that sort of stuff. So it's a huge focus for us. This past year and the next 3 years moving forward is huge online presence.
If I said to you, you could have 10 more retailers nationally recognised, or you could be in 5 cities, what would you take and why?
Good question. I think from an impact lens, one thing that's been really important and critical to mission success always is we don't want to ever fray the integrity of what's being created. So we talk about conscious growth. So certainly with the right partners, who could sort of collaborate with us. That's really enticing, of course. But then, look, I mean, maybe from a brand footprint perspective, as Marcus said, like, again, under no illusions, like, our goal is to make as much profit as possible to be able to support this, not only for now, but, to make sure it endures in the future. So potentially it may be that, again, Marcus might have a different answer to me.
Yeah, I think if we were to go into the other cities, it's taken us years to be involved with community service partners and make all these connections to make these programs happen. So if we were to go to a Sydney or to Brisbane, we'd have to be there for 6 months to a year to make those connections, connect with community, because we wouldn't want to just go up there and not have be supporting the programs back here. We want to support the community that we're in. So it does take a lot of work to set these stores up, but it doesn't. Not to say that we don't want to do it. We do want to look to expand 2026 or 27 into a different state, but we are looking at a new store here in Melbourne next year. In discussions at the moment in the CBD. So to expand our program to offer a 8 to 10 week program, as well as the 8-month, just for young people that need a bit of a kickstart. Yep. They might not be ready for the full 8-month experience, but they need that bit of a leg up, and then might be able to apply for the 8-month program after that. So, and with that, we need a new store, because we'll have 50 young people go through this program every year. So, that's the focus at the moment. Expanding here in Melbourne first, and then potentially interstate. So, the retailers would be awesome to have more retailers on board for sure.
But that's what it takes, I think, as well, is like sort of that, I guess the reaction from all of us, like, oh, like, wow, it takes that much time and effort, etc. But that's truly like to be able to, I guess, create the change that we've been able to do here in Melbourne. Again, there's no shortcuts. And that's the thing, obviously, is with government agendas, etc. Like, there's often a time sort of restriction around, re-election, all that kind of stuff, whereas we're not bound by those things. So yes, it is a bit of a, slow and steady, but at the same token, like, I think it's, putting those roots in the ground. So it's actually a far deeper foundation. So I guess, again, we're really forthcoming in a lot of ways, proud of that, because this is what it truly takes to affect that change. And it's probably going to require, time beyond when we're still, actually here on this earth as well, right? But if we've sort of, but potentially not. I guess it's just that we're really trying to make sure that we do things the right way and wear that example, versus trying to sort of fast track stuff and obviously do it half baked.
Are you like succession planning at all here? Like long term, you must have like. You're taking a step back now, Nick.
Yeah. In some ways, it's sort of transpired, which is good. I think that's a really positive thing to see, that like a co-founder and someone who was a CEO for a period of time and all that kind of institutional, like a better term, like knowledge or experience, to have been able to obviously pass the baton, and it's been such a positive experience for all of us. I think it's nice for everyone to see, not just our internal team, but obviously external, etc. That's what you want, I think, is something to endure beyond sort of your tenure, to make yourself redundant. People can come in and obviously, perform that role and make things better. And sometimes it requires a fresh lens, new perspective and all the rest of it. So something I think to actually not be afraid of, but rather try and embrace. So I think, we were lucky that sort of, just I guess everyone was on the same page with that change. But it's nice to be able to maintain some contact still and make me feel part of the family.
You've obviously innovated in a number of ways. Started, obviously clothing's a part of it. Your programs are a part of it. You've gone into Reborn, and you've gone in now into a fellowship, a Churchill fellowship. Talk a little bit about Reborn, because that sounds like a pretty amazing program, and then talk a little bit about the fellowship as well.
Yeah, Reborn was created to tackle the waste problem within the fashion industry. It's a bit of an elephant in the room. And, we started off by repurposing some of our own clothing that didn't go to our VRP days and was left over back in 2019, and saw that, people were gravitating towards these pieces because they were one-off and unique, and, that wasn't something you could get anywhere else. So from that, we realised that we could partner with other brands because they have a lot of other dead stock, whereas we didn't have much at all. So we partnered with Champion, cut up and repurpose some of their dead stock, faulties, returns, stuff that they had no use with, and created these collections that were unique and people, really got around. So it started off just, a couple of machines in our warehouse in Collingwood, and but we've since then upcycled over 5,000 garments and saved over 3.5 tons of textiles from landfill. And we've just signed a partnership with ABMT Textiles out in Sunshine. So instead of us creating 50 garments a week, we can now do up to 1,500. Wow. So that's sort of opened the doors to brands like Country Road, to the Iconic, to the AFL. Having these discussions now where we can scale up this repurposing model, because I think there's a huge opportunity here in stimulating the local economy in remake, because brands can't exactly ship their clothing back to China or India or wherever it's come from. But we could create a hub here in Melbourne where we can transform, repurpose these garments, get them back onto shop floors and into people's hands. And it saves us using virgin materials and cotton and water and stuff like that. So, I'm really excited by this sort of next phase. Obviously partnering with Country Road, repurposing their heritage sweaters, which everyone's probably had one during their life. So it was a bit of a pinch ourselves moment. Partnering
is that
with
what actually happens? Like if they've got 10,000 shirts unsold, I'm not saying Champion, just say the industry itself. They will throw them away, or like they give them away. What?
Yeah. I don't want to incriminate anyone, but in the industry, Burberry were called out a couple of years ago for burning $60 million worth of stock because
just can't sell it. Go and burn it.
Yeah, didn't want to put it in op shops where a certain type of person might be wearing it afterwards.
Keep their brand.
Yeah, so it's a big part of brand, people's brand image. They'll just discard it or cut it up or burn it.
That's just crazy.
Whereas working with someone like you just enhances the brand.
Yeah, and the good thing about it is, it extends the life of the garment. Yep. It also will create job opportunities in manufacturing and local economy here, and the profits will support our program. So it's a huge win-win, and it's driven by the consumer demand as well. Like customers actually want this stuff. It's not when you think of sustainable or circular garments, people think it might be that boho dress made of organic cotton, but we're actually showcasing that it can be cool product. It's walks at Melbourne Fashion Festival and give it that sort of streetwear lens. So trying to change the minds of consumers as well to buy into this stuff and show brands that it's actually worthwhile, a commercially viable product.
It is a brave move because the idea of fashion, right? Fast fashion is to make it quick, less time, effort into it, and sell it at a premium. And you're taking something that you have to cut up twice, put together. Everything about it is hard. Would have been easy to say, no, too hard.
Yeah. The great thing about it is that these garments that they couldn't sell, instead of going 50% off, they actually put $15, $20 into it. It becomes a product that's so desirable you can charge double the retail price. So that's where it's becomes commercially viable, but brands just need to take that little bit of risk potentially at the start. But we're seeing that jumpers that we couldn't sell for $100 we can sell for $180 because they've had a bit of a love, a bit of work put into them, and that's what customers want these days.
You still get a kick out of seeing your jumpers and your designs going down the street?
Oh yeah, that'll never get older. I think like every time you see someone wearing your stuff, you're like, oh shit, they're wearing it, and you don't want to say anything. Like,
he's getting excited about bringing Nelson back. So you have to just tell that how exciting.
PTSD.
No, I think that'll never ever go away. Like that feeling of seeing someone wear your stuff on the street, it's just bizarre, and but also you get a sense of pride and just so thankful that they're supporting the programs and what we're doing.
Right.
Talk a little bit about the fellowship initiative that's just started and how that came about.
Yeah, so I was just awarded the Winston Churchill Trust Fellowship. So
congratulations.
That's through
meetings?
through
No.
through the Reborn program. So to go and explore other circular models to save textile waste from landfill. So
Yeah, terrific.
across Europe, Asia, America, looking at other brands doing similar things, other factories working in this space. There's some, amazing brands in Europe that have worked in this space for a while and have, become a global brand. There's a factory in Spain that it only uses excess product and materials. So, to go and visit these places with the goal to bring that back to our factory here and help stimulate the local economy. Maybe there's, other systems and structures that we could implement here to build the business and what we're doing here. So that's sort of the goal for the fellowship, and I'll be documenting the whole process and with the aim to bring it back to Australia and help benefit the community.
Jesus, it's incredible. Like, it's just, there's so many other facets to it. I have a question about the future.
Yeah, you go.
Nate, you want to go?
No, I was going to. Who else is doing anything like this in the community? Because I only know of Homie, right? Is there anyone else out there? You go, they're doing a really good job in this area.
In like apparel or
Apparel and
Anything.
youth homelessness.
there's so many amazing.
Yeah.
Who do you look up to?
Yeah.
There's heaps of brilliant initiatives which is cool, like across like I guess eclectic mix of industry. So, there's like obviously sort of in the hospitality scene, there's a number of different sort of cafes and restaurants sort of initiatives now, which is really cool as well. There's like florists that that are doing really cool things. There's First Nations brands. Like it's really come on leaps and bounds, and like Melbourne is almost the social enterprise capital of the world, which is really cool. Like Free to Feed's one of our sort of close neighbours, which is just up the road in Clifton Hill, and that's pretty amazing to be able to go and do a cooking class with someone who's teaching you sort of their traditional cuisine from potentially a war-torn nation and doing that as a team building exercise. Like there's some really amazing initiatives that are happening right here.
Social
in
studio in Collingwood that's been around for 15 years now, and doing amazing things for new migrants coming to the country. So there's so many amazing social enterprises in Melbourne, and we're just happy to be part of that cohort.
What's the one collaboration you'd love to do that you haven't been able to get to yet? We're going to call them out now.
People are you could do person or brand.
It could be either.
Well, for us, it's about who's going to help drive the mission and get us the most exposure and stuff, so we can.
All right, I'll throw a brand at you then. Like, okay, so based on that though, like if Skims came in and said we want to do something with you.
Oh yeah, I mean, like we've presented to Nike not long ago,
awesome.
and showcased what we could do in terms of Reborn and sort of pitched that idea, and we're continuing that discussion with them.
Yeah, awesome.
So someone like that would be awesome, but it's even to be in the room with them sharing what we're doing is it's crazy in their head office in the city. So. But when you get people like the AFL and Country Road coming to you to work on stuff, it's pretty cool, and it's inspiring to see the way things have changed since we started, and the brands are really seeing the value of this like community spirit and doing something that's worthwhile and meaningful, because probably 10 years ago that wasn't really the case.
Wouldn't mind Homie in one of the NBA. Kid, that's going to be pretty cool.
If Larry Kesselman's out there, you may get NBL first.
That'd be cool as well. Absolutely.
Mitchell and Ness or something like that. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. We've got to make that happen. That'd be pretty good. They're pretty open. I have a question about the future. I was going to ask guys. Let's fast forward, say 5 years from now. We're downstairs, we're having a beer. What is the thing that you want to come back on the pod and say? Perhaps Marcus has got a successor, and you might not be in the room. No, I'm just saying that. Like, we just, what are the things that you want to say? Is it want to have a transition? Like, we reduced it by this much. Is it all about the homelessness goal? And you're not saying, is it about reducing that and that's your impact, or is it about empowering youth, or is it about being globally recognised? What is it that you want to look each other in the eye and look your fellow podcasters in the eye and say, in 5 years' time when we catch up?
Fuck, it'd be nice to have all those things. I guess for us it's providing more opportunities, as many opportunities as we can, and that's you know, either through our stores or partner retailers, you know, just providing more inclusive workplaces for young people to have an opportunity to get into the workforce and thrive. So that's like the main focus. And with that, you know, if we can help save more garments from landfill by partnering with these brands as well, you know, provide that circular solution for brands as we move forward. That's, you know, a big part of what I'm doing at the moment as well. So, yeah.
I was going to ask, it's very rare you get to impact people's lives like you guys do. You must have some amazing stories that people have come up to you and, like, you know, they bring a tear to your eye just the way they would thank you for getting their life back on track. Is there any that stand out?
Marcus might have some personal ones. I think like almost like an objective one, and like a real compliment to us is that there's often people who actually complete our program and move on with their lives and want to disassociate entirely with homie, which is a really wonderful thing. And just sort of, you know, that was a period of time in my life, but I'm now off doing this and I'm really happy and I'm settled. And like, I remember we were once just at a comedy show like one night, and in front of us there was like a young woman with her partner, and a young woman was someone who was in our program like
The first one,
five years ago or whatever it was, and just like so great to give them a hug
that's
and see
awesome.
them so happy and just like, you know, out living their lives and happy and settled, and that was a really cool moment. But there's definitely stories like that, I guess. Yeah, sorry, mine's probably not as exciting, but I think it's actually a really big compliment to us is when someone actually goes like, that was a period of time in my life, I'm off doing this now. That's one of the best things that can happen for us.
Yeah, I think it's like the graduation every year. You know, we see the young people finishing, and from where they start to when they graduate is just, you know, completely different. So that's super inspiring. Gets us out of bed, you know, every day to get out and get amongst it. But yeah, there's so many amazing stories of young people that have gone on to bigger and better things. You know, Tom, one of our first graduates, always wanted to be an air hostess, and he called us up, you know, probably 2 years ago and said, guess what, I got a job at Jetstar, you know. And like, you know, hearing those stories of young people getting to where they want to be, and we're just like a small part of that. You know, they're the ones that, you know, really commit to this program and really take it in their stride. So we're just helping facilitate it, and if we can be a small part of that journey, that's sort of what we're there for.
But these people, they'll pay it forward as well. You know, they'll start helping the next people, and it just grows and grows. So
yeah, a lot of the young people going through the program have gone into community development stuff or youth work. We've had one of the young girls come back to bring young people through on a VIP day just recently. So yeah, that was amazing to see that, you know, they've gone on to work in this space and continue that sort of ripple effect.
Yeah, that's lovely. We don't get that with strategy.
No, I was just thinking how boring our lives are.
No one's hugged me over the app or the website.
No one said, geez, did you make that? That's a great website.
I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure they're out there.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. Guys, it's been amazing chatting. I don't have, you know, other questions?
No, thank you for so much coming in, guys. Really inspirational. And, you know, from meeting you 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
You know, on that random day, just to see where you guys are going, phenomenal. So keep it up.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Yeah,
See you again.
Yeah,
thanks for having us.
Amazing work, guys.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Much appreciated.
All right.
Beautiful. Awesome. Good work.
That was fantastic.
Well done,
Thank
guys.
you.
What a chat. Marcus and Nick are proof that when purpose meets innovation, real change happens. From supporting young people into employment to tackling fashion waste with Reborn, they've cracked a model that governments and big businesses could learn a thing or two from.
I think the thing that blew me away, and it's important to remember that less than 10% of homelessness is due to substance abuse. The reality really is so different from the stereotype. And the idea that brands are literally burning unsold stock instead of repurposing it is just wild. Anyway, just a huge thanks to Marcus and Nick for sharing their journey. These guys are genuinely making caring cool, and we're all here for it.
See you on the next episode.